Welcome! I'm glad you're here. You're listening to Banjo Chat, where I bring in amazing banjo players and chat with them about their life, their music, their stories, their pitfalls, inspirations, and advice. So, join us on this journey into Banjo Chat. Hello, and welcome to the Banjo Chat. I'm your host, Hillary Hawk, and I'm excited to be here. This is what I do. It's Wednesday. I love having the chats. It opens my heart. It makes me feel like I'm connected to something greater, something more meaningful in the music world, than expecting to find reality online or on social media. How are you all out there? I want to give a hello and a shout out to our listeners at WSBB 91.7 FM. I hope you are feeling some kind of connection too. It's been a kind of a crazy time here in New York. It's the changing of seasons. Birds are in full force outside my window at 5 a.m. We had an earthquake, the solar eclipse. I saw a brown recluse spider in my bathtub. It's all at the same time. What's going on? But, we keep going. We keep working towards what we want. And I've said it on here before, but I'm going to say it again. I'll be working at the Steve Kaufman camp this June 9th through the 15th. Sign up now. It's filling up fast. All right, here we go. My next guest on the Banjo Chat is one of the hardest working banjo players out there right now. And when I say hardest working, I mean he's out on the road, he's putting in the miles, the late nights, the energy. He's on the road with Molly Tuttle and Golden Highway. They won Best Bluegrass Album of the Year at the Grammys this year, and Album of the Year at the IBMA Awards. That's the International Bluegrass Music Award. He just released his own album of music, which features his singing and banjo playing. And he's playing with some of the most creative freedom I've heard from any banjo player, just really exploring every aspect of the banjo and having a blast on stage, just giving it 100% all the time. He's a leader, he's a side person, he's a singer, he's a writer, an improviser. And he's also one of the rare guests on here that I've actually never met before. So, you'll be witnessing this beautiful moment. So excited to have you on the Banjo Chat, Kyle Tuttle!
Howdy, Hillary. Holy smokes. You're making me blush over here by saying all that nice stuff about me.
Well, it's all true, so.
A lot to live up to there.
Well, you're doing it, and you're touring quite a bit, and I have no idea where you are right now. And, it's really hard to find that out. I look online, but, I don't know where you are. Do you get to go home between shows, or are you always on the road? Where are you?
Well, I'm at home right now. I'm at home in Nashville, Tennessee.
Nice.
I don't get to be here that often. Not as often as I would like to, I guess. But most of the time, like you said, I'm out on the road with Molly Tuttle and Golden Highway, and that's a full-time job on its own. And then, I also love being a band leader of my own, and I have my own projects and my own records. So really, I think I'm just a glutton for punishment. When I get a minute off of the road with Molly, I take my own band out and do it all over again,
Wow, you're really doing it. That's just full on. And, but we do it while we can. If the iron, what do they say, strike while the iron is hot. If it's coming in, the work's coming in, just do it while you can, because we all had that moment. We've had that moment during COVID where everything kind of slowed down so much that it's nice that it's happening right now for you. I love this moment.
Oh, well, thank you very much. And it does, like they say, was it make hay while the sun's shining? But
there's another one.
But also, there's this feeling, and I don't know if it's, I don't know if it's real, but it certainly seems real to me. And I'm sure that every artist sort of experiences this to some degree, but it feels like, even though I've done all this hard work and I've got all these, and I'm sort of in the middle of all this stuff and it's rolling right now, it's like if I stopped for 1 minute, it could all just go away. It would all just be gone. It's like if I decided I needed a week off and I was just going to disappear for a week, it feels like I could come back to nothing. And be like, who was that guy that played banjo? I don't know. No one ever knows. No one remembers.
Yeah. Why do you think that is?
I don't know. I mean, I think it's part of the drive that makes you want to keep working. I think it's a necessary. Yeah. I do think it probably is to my benefit in the long run, but it's also it's a stressful way to think in the short run. But that's just sort of how my brain works, I guess.
Well, I mean, I think it's one of those things about, you're in Nashville, right?
Correct.
It's one of those reasons that I've never wanted to move to Nashville because, well, I'm in New York City. It's highly competitive here, and it stresses me out all the time. I've mentioned it like a million times on here, but I feel like Nashville would be even harder. Like, it's saturated with people that can do, basically, like what we can do without the, the creative parts of us, but people can do the jobs down there, and that's scary to me. That's like full on,
Yeah, it's scary. It's intense, but Nashville's a very supportive community of artists, and I've always felt that from the very beginning when I got here. I've been here now for 12 years.
Wow.
And even from the very beginning, I mean, there's a nice, supportive bunch of people here, and they, if somebody can't do a gig, they like looking for someone else that can do the gig to fill in, and they pass the work down the line, and so a lot of the opportunities that I got, and I'm sure this is probably true for a lot of folks, but especially for me, when I first came to town, a lot of it was like, so and so can't make the gig on this weekend, so can you fill in for them, and it's not really like getting a gig, it's just doing a one or two shows in place of your buddy who's really good, but those things open doors slowly over time,
Yeah.
and there's I never had any trouble with that type of connections being made in the professional community in Nashville, which I think is really cool.
That is really cool. That's nice to hear. So, what was it like winning the Grammy Award with Molly Tuttle and Golden Highway? What was that like? Was it like bottles of champagne, like bursting, and people ripping open the CDs and just throwing them around the room? Like, what was that like?
Yeah, sure, it was like that. Yeah, bottles of champagne. There was some fireworks. Yeah, it was.
It's been wild.
There's some people. Some people came by and made speeches and stuff. No, it was exciting. It's still exciting. I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. It's only been a couple of months, and I don't have the award. They mail them to you, and I don't actually have the award yet at this time.
Man.
So I'm still like, it's still like a little bit like, is that even real? Am I ever going to get
That's
one?
so cool.
But no, it's flattering. It's humbling. It's really cool. Because we worked hard on that record, and we worked even harder touring it for the last year, and so to sort of feel some version of recognition from this big magical mysterious thing they call the Recording Academy. It's like, I don't really even know what that means or who it is, but they like our record, and they voted for it, and that really means a whole lot.
Yeah, it's like the Wizard of Oz. It's like the guy behind the curtain or something. Like, who is that? Like, who are they?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but that must have felt so good because it's like you made those parts. You created those parts with Molly Tuttle, and that's like, now it's a piece of history. And like you were saying, you've had to fill in for people like in Nashville. People can't do the gig, and they have you come in and you learn their part as well as you can, and it's a hustle. And that's like what I do here. Like, I end up doing a lot of theater, and I end up subbing for people. I end up doing a lot of theater work, and it's so hard. And like, when you have that moment where you can create something like original parts and original music and work up your parts, and it won a Grammy, it's like, hallelujah. That's a gift, like, that's amazing. What a blessing. It's so great.
Yeah, it really, it really is. That's a good way of looking at it, because I've like I said, I've done so much fill-in work and sub work, and even in other bands where I wasn't necessarily a sub. Like, I became the banjo player in the band, but I wasn't the first banjo player in the band. So you're no longer a sub. You're really a member, but you're not the guy on the record.
Yeah.
And you get, as I'm sure you understand, it's like there's certain parts. When they say, come play this song, there's certain parts of the song where you're going to be able to take some liberties and sort of play whatever you want. But then there's certain parts where it's like, okay, for these couple of measures, you are going to have to hit that lick that guy hit on the record, because everyone needs to hear that, And so, really, really, for kind of one of the first times in my life on a real record that's out there in the world that people are really listening to, the City of Gold record, as I'm the guy that made those parts.
Yeah.
you know.
That's so cool.
And it's a pretty special
Yeah,
feeling.
and people are going to be learning those parts. People are going to be listening and learning from that. That's really awesome. And yeah,
You know, and it also just goes to show you when you're the guy when you're the guy playing someone else's parts on the record, sometimes you get to the show and the moment's coming up in the show and you're like, oh shit, what was it like? What was the was it an E or an F sharp on that the third note?
Yeah.
I can't remember, you know. And you would think when you're the guy that made up the parts, you wouldn't have that problem, but that is not true.
You have to replicate.
I'm the guy that thought of the parts, and I'm still in the moment coming up. And I'm like, oh, is it an E or an F sharp? I can't remember.
You have to you have to duplicate what you did. Yeah, and sometimes you can't remember.
Totally.
Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes you can't. remember.
It's all about the fifth string to me. It's like, where did I put the fifth string? Where did I put the fifth string? It's like, where's that pop coming? That always throws me. Yeah. But anyway, how many banjos are you taking on the road these days? Do you have like one main one? Are you guys all traveling together? How is it working?
The last year, I mainly take one banjo. I really only take one banjo on the road. Last year, we almost exclusively were flying everywhere. Flying and then picking up a Sprinter van, and we'd ride. The band would all ride around together in a van with a trailer for like 5 or 10 days or whatever, and then we all fly home. But that's still, all my gear was still going through the airport, so I wasn't like stacking up a bunch of banjos to go on that trip with, And I did on the record. I did use a couple of banjos, two different lower tuned banjos. One like a half step down to cut something in a weird in between key, and another one that I think is tuned to open D. What is it? I was playing anyway. I can't remember. It's like D or it might have even had been D sharp or something weird like that. But we don't. I don't do that on the road. I just capo and play. I play one instrument. I capo weird and there's a couple of things where I'm like capoed 1 and the fifth string is capoed 3 just to get some weird sound to some weird tuning to work right.
Yeah.
But I don't know, honestly, if it came to having the option of having like 3 or 4 banjos on the show, I don't know. I might try it, but I don't know. There's something nice about the one that everything's in the same spot. Your hands are in the same spot. The instrument really well. And the main banjo that I'm playing now, the one I've been playing for about most of my, I've got a couple other ones that have come in and out of my time, but pretty much for my entire banjo career, I've been playing a 1979 Ode style C. And that's when odes were made by Baldwin. They had been bought out by the Baldwin Company, so they were originally made. They may have still been made in Boulder by Chuck. I don't really know the exact history, but originally those banjos were made in Boulder, Colorado by Chuck Oxbury, and they were called Ode, O-D-E. Chuck sold the company to Ohm to Baldwin in like the mid 70s. So I have a 1979, so it was built during the Baldwin years, but it's still got the Ode name on the headstock, And then Chuck started his company again, calling it Ohm, O-M-E. So Ode is the original Ohm.
I've always wondered that. I've always wondered why are they so close, the names, and that's always, I never could figure that out. Thank you for explaining that.
Yeah, it's literally because Chuck's a smart man. He sold that company and then essentially started it again with one different letter in the name, ran it for 30 years, and just sold it again to Goldtone. Goldtone has bought OME now. So Chuck Oxbury has built and sold almost built and sold the same banjo company twice. I mean, that's a damn smart dude right there.
That is a smart dude. That's some smart business acumen. Wow. It's almost like how...
Yeah, and he's a great banjo builder, too. I mean, not taking away his banjo building. He's a great banjo builder, and that's why he was able to do that.
Those banjos sound great. That's awesome. That's great.
Mm-hmm. And mine's a 1979 Style C pot, and I played it with the original neck for many years, and then I had Robin Smith build me a replacement neck, if you're familiar with Robin. He actually passed a couple years ago, unfortunately, and there's a big hole in the banjo world right now because nobody can build a neck like Robin could. I mean, I look forward to seeing. I'm waiting patiently to find someone that can do work as good as Robin, but I haven't seen him yet. and he was really good at the radius fingerboard, the curved fingerboard, and that's what I play. Mine's a compound radius, so which means it's a steeper curve by the nut and a less steep curve by the bridge. I don't know why that's the way they do it, but that's Rob. That was sort of Robin's specialty.
Cool.
And Robin actually made me 2 necks for that banjo. Robin made me one, a mahogany neck, about this would have been about 2009, and it got dropped and the headstock broke, and I sent the neck. I took off the neck, sent it back to Robin. It was like a perfectly clean break. If it's gonna break, it was the best break you can imagine. Robin put it back together, sent the neck back to me in a UPS box, and UPS destroyed the box. And when I got the repaired neck back, it was in splinters. The freaking truss rod was sticking out, was bent and sticking. The neck had separated, and the truss rod was like a bone, like a broken bone sticking out of the side of the neck.
Oh my goodness.
So, and that's after Robin fixed it, So thankfully it was insured. UPS or USPS, I can't remember which one. FedEx maybe. Got me paid for it, and so then it was actually a blessing in disguise, because I had been playing that neck from Robin for a couple of 3 or 4 years, and there was a couple things that I would have liked to change about it, and so then the neck got totally destroyed, and I got Robin to build me another one, and this one is built out of maple instead of mahogany, and it's a little bit wider. The string spacing is a little bit wider, so
that's cool.
And yeah, it's a really, I mean, it's my favorite banjo for sure. It's the thing I've been playing for many years, so it's what my hands are comfortable with. But it's a really, really
that's
great neck.
Awesome. I'd love to feel a neck like that. It's
well, if we ever sit down, you'll have to.
I'd
play
love
it.
to try it. It's so cool that resonator banjos can just have that possibility to remove the neck, change the neck. It's like you can Frankenstein a resonator banjo, and not so much with old time banjos, clawhammer banjos. They're all handmade. You can't separate those parts out so much, because it's all put together as one piece. It's hard to do that kind of replacement.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, the banjos, the classic style, 3-finger style resonator banjo. You're right. It's it's really cool. My buddy Torin from the Kitchen Dwellers says it's like a tractor.
Yeah.
It's like you just get, all you need is a couple of wrenches and a couple screwdrivers. You can take the whole thing apart. You can replace any part with any other part. You can wrench the thing back together, and you can be on stage playing it again in 15 minutes.
Yeah. It's true. It's a machine. It's
cool.
just work it. I have students that come here and they're preciously taking off the little, the screws to take off the back. I'm like, just take it off. Just open it up.
I only use 2 of those. They come. It's got 4 of them on there, but you only need 2. I mean, I put on the one on opposite sides, and that's all I use.
Do you keep the little headstock cap off too, the top of the headstock? Do you keep that off?
No, I did for a really long time, but actually I don't.
That's
now.
a look.
I put it back on. Yeah, it is. It's definitely a look.
Well, that brings me to this question. I wanted to ask you: has music always been a collaborative adventure for you? Has it been a collaborative process? For example, I feel very isolated with my music. Until I'm on stage. Until I'm on stage, I'm at home, I'm by myself, I'm isolated, I'm writing. So when I get on stage, I'm psyched to be around other people, because it's such the writing process for me is very alone. The practicing is very alone. But how is it for you, the music making in your life?
I think I'm somewhere in the middle, really, because when I practice and stuff, when I write and when I practice, I've done very little co-writing in my life. And a lot of people are really good at co-writing. They sit down and write with people all the time. And that's a very Nashville thing to do, get together and co-write songs.
Yeah.
And for some reason, I just haven't done that. I've done a little bit of it, and I've done it on some bigger country style sessions with some really, really great writers, writing stuff that could potentially go for big records and stuff like that. But I was just lucked into those situations. I didn't even really go looking for that. I just sort of met the right people and got invited to do some of that, and I have done it. But most of the time, and especially for my own material, I'm pretty much just sitting at home on my own and shedding this stuff and the ideas. It's pretty self-contained, but that's my creative process right now. I mean, the whole way that I got here, when I was playing guitar when I was a little kid. I picked up the banjo when I was 17. I started playing guitar when I was 5 years old. I got a banjo for my 17th birthday, and I was starting to get into bluegrass. My grandparents had this old banjo laying around, so I was already a pretty good guitar player. And I was in punk rock bands and playing like speed metal, fast finger, shreddy finger guitar stuff, electric guitar stuff. And I had a real good buddy, Ian Newberry, guy in Atlanta who's also an excellent guitar player. And we both started we were in high school together. He was a year older than me, and we started getting into bluegrass kind of at the same time. And like we would both take home this Tony Rice record and come back, and he was playing everything way better than I was playing it. When we got back together, and I got right around that time I got a banjo. So for me, it was like, okay, well now if I start working on the banjo, then we've got to, And we had another buddy, Richard Barrett, played mandolin. So with bluegrass music, the origins of me doing it were very social. It was like I was hanging out with my friends and we were all learning new songs together and playing little bar gigs around town and stuff like that, getting snuck into the bars and playing when we're not old enough to and stuff like that,
That's awesome.
So I've been through a little. I think I've got a little of both sides of it. I do sometimes look around at people in Nashville and see how many people co-write with other people, and I'm like, dang, I wish I did that, but there's nothing stopping me from doing it except making a phone call, and I guess I don't make the phone call, so
Yeah, yeah, that is a Nashville thing. We don't really do that here. Like, yeah, that's like a cool Nashville thing that you guys do.
Yeah, well, and I think it's part of the culture here because in the 90s you could make money. I mean, dudes bought houses and cars. I mean, if you got Clint Black or Randy Travis, or Kenny Chesney to cut one of your tunes back then, you make a couple $100,000 on the publishing, from that over a year long period. Some of these cats could make actually go buy a house, and it's not like that anymore.
That's
there's no money in it like that anymore, but there's still some money in it. I mean, people can still, I know a couple of songwriters are always showing up in the brand new trucks and stuff like that. I mean, they're making money.
Yeah, wow.
But what I meant to say is that I think because of the way there used to be real money in it, and people would move to Nashville to be like, I'm just gonna sit here and write my songs and go to every and these people come to town that never had any intention of performing on stage. Their whole deal is they're gonna sit down and they're gonna pen something with a couple other 2 or 3 people, and they're gonna know the connect, then give that piece of paper or demo tape to the people at their publishing house who have the right connections to get it down the street, down Music Row. And this was all happening on Music Row. It's literally on one road. I mean, people would get together in one office, write a song, make the demo tape, take it 3 doors down the street to the studio where one of these guys is recording, and if you're lucky, they hear it and they go, oh, well, that's the one we're going to cut today. And then if you're lucky, it is a number 1 hit, People came to town. People back then, man. People were giving up everything they had to come to town to fish for an opportunity like that, and that creates. Yep. I think that created a really cool thing that still is very much a part of what we do, even though there's not money in it like there used to be,
Yeah, those dreams, those stories that you hear about, it keeps the dream alive. It keeps people doing it, and there are exceptions. There are people that make it, but yeah, it keeps the dream alive. It's like thinking about Brad Pitt sleeping in his car before he was famous, like in L.A., and then he was discovered.
Totally.
Like those
it's like,
ideas.
Dude, what if he just stayed at home because he was too afraid to sleep in his car? We wouldn't have it's like we wouldn't have so much great stuff, and the same thing with those writers, man. A lot of those cats that did really well, they're still around town and they still write. It's not like they're like, oh hell yeah, I bought my house, I'm done now. It's not like that. Those dudes are all still getting together, having meetings, going out to lunch. Some guy rattles off one phrase, and the other guy's like, "Hey, we should write that song." You know, I mean, it's very much still happens in this town, for sure.
No, I'm glad you said that. Well, I'm smiling a little bit because I've been listening to your music this whole week. I've been like immersing myself in it. I'm jogging right now, trying to get in shape, and I just put your album on, jogging. Got great tempo for jogging.
I hadn't thought about that.
And
That's a good point.
No, it's true. Well, bluegrass is great for jogging, actually. And I thought that you didn't play guitar. I was like, I think he's a banjo player first. And like that was my thought, because like I hear banjo players, and many of them, we all hear banjo players. You hear them and you're like, okay, they're a guitar player first. They're a guitar player first. But you use the melodic style so well. Like you're using it, your banjo style, you're blending melodic style and single string, you're blending all the things. And to me, I was like, oh, you're a banjo player first. Because I feel like guitar players always go single string first. And they don't access this gorgeous, beautiful blending of sounds with the melodic style. And you do that. And I was like, okay, I'm like foremost banjo player
shucks.
first.
Well, Hillary,
So,
that's a heck of a compliment for sure. I'm sorry to say that you're not right, but I do appreciate it.
Yeah, you got me. Well, I mean, because you have the guitar effects and you have some pedals in your music, and I'm like, oh, like he's like really experimenting with that. Maybe he was a guitar player first, and then I was like, no. I think you're doing the banjo first, but I'm wrong.
Right.
Sometimes I'm wrong.
Sometimes I'm wrong. Often I'm wrong.
Yeah. Well, I thought we could listen to a little bit of your music and talk about it a little bit. How's that sound?
Sounds great.
Okay, here we go.
All right.
All right, that was The Ghost That Loved Me. I love that. I just wanted to keep it playing. It's just so good. It's such a vibe, and it's the sound of like a festival to me. It's like the sound of a festival band to me. I love the groove. I love the playing. It like takes you to another place immediately. It kind of like shoots you out like a little cannon into like the space. That intro just like shoots you out. Like I almost want to just play the intro again. I'm going to play the intro again because I like it. One more time. Okay, here we go. One more time. One more time. Yeah, it's so good. So are you writing like with that festival sound in mind? Yeah, tell me about that a little bit. Do you know what I'm talking about? Like that, it's like I don't know. It's kind of like it allows like a larger audience to kind of just like groove and play. Like I don't picture this like for a small venue. That's what I mean, I guess.
Sure. Yeah. No, I don't. I mean the the festival scene, the bluegrass festival scene, the jamgrass festival scene is my favorite thing. It's my absolute favorite thing. I mean, I love it's my favorite place to be. I'm lucky enough to get to spend most of my summers bouncing around between many of them now, and that was a dream for me. I mean, for years and years, I was sitting at home studying and working on, and even when I first moved to Nashville, I was playing more straight ahead gigs, just trying to pick up everything I could, and I thought that playing it more straight, was going to be more beneficial to me in the long run, and it turns out that's not true. Being more true to yourself is always going to be more beneficial to what your goals are. You know, the more that the more that I just became, you know, okay with that, okay with doing a thing that's not really like what's going on in Nashville maybe or New York City or LA, but it's just like, this is the sound that I like. This is the way I like to play, and it's the sound that I envision, you know. And so I don't think of it as like a festival sound like you're saying, but I see how you mean. I see how it gets that way, because that's my place. That's like my happy place. That's the place for me to be at, you know. It's the place where I do the best.
Yeah, it's like a fish in the bowl is like, what's water?
Yeah.
Like the fish is like, I don't know what water is. Like, you're there, you're in it. So you're doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's like like I'm here, you know, and I'm not around that. I wish I was around that sound more. But yeah, I'm like just working all the time here on music stuff, and it's more like an industry thing, and I love it. I love that sound. It's just like it's different, you know. Like I was talking to Kristen Scott Benson last week, and her sound is very traditional, and she's like, that's the sound I grew up with, that's what I do, you know, this is like what I do. And I think you're so right. Like, being authentic and being genuine with yourself is the thing that we all hope to be able to do. And I love that you captured it on this album.
Oh, well,
or I hope you feel like you did.
know, I really do feel like I did, and I appreciate you saying that. I do feel like I did, and this record took a long time for me to make, and there's no at no point during any of the recording of this album or any of the sessions was there ever any kind of like, oh, is this the right choice? Is this the right musical choice? Like, will people like this, or like, will this work? It's like, it's not like that. It's like, this is I wrote this music. I wrote it to sound the way I want it to sound. I get the player. I bring in the players that I love, the people that I really appreciate, that I trust what they do. You know, I try and make a real point of never telling someone how to play any song. You know, you show them, you play the song for them, say, this is how I'm playing it, this is what it's like. But I'm not going to be like, okay, play the rhythm guitar like this and play me this chord voicing in this spot, you know. And a lot of people will do that because they've envisioned it. For me, it's more just like trust. It's like, I'm going to bring in the people that I love what they do, and I bet you if I set them free on this thing that I wrote, they're probably going to come up with something cooler than I would have thought to tell them to play if I'd have told them to play something, you know? And not every player in the world is capable of that, but the ones that are going to be on my session are, because for me, they're the people. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, let's contrast that with this other tune called Circularity. Okay, here we go. like that circularity, and I was drawn to this one because it's only you, and it's one of my favorite tracks on the whole album. It's your voice, it's your it's it's here we go. It's your voice. It's refreshing. It really displays your spirit and the way you approach solos. I listened to this one and I'm so drawn to it. And I also feel like it's from like a musical standpoint, it suggests other elements that you put in some of the other tunes. Like this is like this interlude, and you have these like interlude moments like in some of the other songs.
That one's it's an improvisation. I meant to sort of like put that on the back of the jacket sleeve next to the title, which I forgot until it was already too late. But it's just an improvised thing, in the studio when we had I don't know what it was. Probably everybody else was eating lunch, and I was done eating lunch or something, and I was like, "Hey, let me have a couple minutes in here by myself," and it's and I didn't know if it was gonna like make it onto the record or what, but it turned out to make a lot of sense and fit on the album in a cool way. I think, especially the vinyl, because it turned out to be the first track on the B side of the vinyl.
Cool.
So it's kind of neat because it's like the A side was more like song based, and then you flip it over and it starts with this like ethereal weird sound, which I like, and that's you talk about using effects and all that fun stuff. I mean, I was a guitar player, so a lot of acoustic musicians who don't have a history with electric guitars are sort of spooked by the electronics. Having to put today, pretty much, if you're going to play on a big stage, you got to plug your instrument in to some kind of pickup, and even the pickup preamp, just getting a plain, clean tone for your instrument is a difficult. It's it's hard to make a banjo specifically with a pickup sound good, and
are you using the LR bags or
no? I'm using the Fishman rare earth pickup. And Grace, I've been using the last couple of years a Grace DI. Grace Designs makes something they call the Alex, and it's just one channel. They make a Felix that a lot of people use. It's 2 channels, but the Alex is just 1 channel. But then I've also got it's basically like an electric guitar board. I've got that track, Circularity, right there is the acoustic banjo with the and there's the acoustic banjo is being mic'd, so you're hearing a little bit of the acoustic banjo, but then there's also the electric signal that's going through the POG octave generator, so I've got, and what I really like to do on that one is it's got your note, an octave below you and an octave above you, and I like to pull my note out of it, so you're really just hearing an octave below and an octave above your note, and then of course, because that mic channel is in there, you're also hearing my note. But when you take your one pitch and separate it by 2 octaves, it's a very steel drum type sound, and then there's a slapback delay and a long repeating delay, and then that signal is being sent down to the basement of the studio, where it's being run through some like an old guitar, like a fuzzy old guitar amp, something that sounds pretty crackly and a little something that breaks up real easy on its own, So pretty much what you got there is an acoustic banjo and this heavily effective 2 octaves separated, doubly delayed, fuzzed out banjo through an old guitar amp that are coming together into one channel.
Is that all you? Like, did you come up with that, or was it who recorded it? Like, was that your idea to do that?
Yeah, it was my idea to do it. And that stuff is on my board all the time. So I can essentially make that sound at any time. I was recording it with a sound engineer, Charlie Chamberlain, my buddy Charlie, here in Nashville. And he is the one that sent it down to the basement through the other amplifiers.
That's cool. Wow. Well, part of the reason I love it is for all the sounds, and that's like right up my alley. Like, I love just experimenting and just having some free improv to start any song. And this song so nicely goes into the next one, which is Saddle Up, which is also a great song. It just blends really nicely. But I love the way you approach the improvisation, and I know you went to Berkeley, or I saw that you went to Berkeley, and Berkeley's known for improv, in my opinion. So I was wondering, how do you approach your solos? Because for me, here's what I do. I think about playing a clear entrance. Like, first of all, like, my entrance has to be clear when I'm about to solo. I stay close to the melody. I depart from the melody I want to play slightly, and then I start going up the neck. I go up the neck, and then I depart totally from the melody, and then I try to land the ending. That's how it goes through my head when I'm playing a solo. Like, what is it for you? Is it just totally like a free Sierra of expression, or like what are you thinking?
No, I think that's a really good. I think what you just said is a really smart approach to improvisation, and I think. I mean, I think about it the same way that you just said, because in my mind, and I've done a lot of contest playing, banjo contests and stuff, which is not improvisation mostly. It's arranged, but in doing that, you sort of arrange a handful of solos over typical material, fiddle tunes and stuff like that, and so you sort of get that, even though you're not improvising, that puts you in the headspace of sort of tracking out, mapping out what a really good successful solo would be like on these tunes, and the more you do that, then the more you're able to sort of access that in the moment. I mean, they say I don't remember who I don't know who they are, but I've heard it said that composition is just improvisation dragged out over a very long period of time, and improvisation is composition smashed into a very short period of time.
That's good.
And so you're not just, people think like, oh, you're improvising, you're just playing whatever you want. Well, it's like, you're gonna start in a way that grabs people's ear and lets them know that you know what's going on. Lets them know that you do know the song and that you've heard the melody and you can recreate that, and that's what we're building off of. And then, of course, you want to, in most cases, especially as a banjo player, in most cases, you want to end up way up the neck going, because that's just like one of the specialties of modern banjo. And sticking the ending obviously is an awesome thing when you can. I mean, I feel like most of my solos start good and end just as some rapid fire mess, that hopefully I can stick. Hopefully I can land on something that's good. But I mean, I think I do often enough.
Yeah, totally. And you did on this track and the whole album and everything you're doing with Molly. It's awesome, Molly Tuttle. Well, I have one final question for you. A lot of the listeners, they ask about jamming or getting out more and playing, and so I was wondering, how do you put your ego aside when going into a jam situation or playing with people you've never played with before? How do you enjoy the moment of interaction with people when jamming and trying to play well without taking yourself too seriously?
I think that's a really good question, and that's a difficult one.
Yeah.
And early in my banjo career, I wasn't good at that. I just was always overthinking, and the time I don't know, the time comes, for your solo, and it's like, and you're like, it's like, oh, everything, the whole jam of this song, the whole song for me is focused around the moment where I get to shine and do my thing, and I hope I impress these other people, and I hope they like what I do. And if I don't do a good job and I don't impress them, then like they're gonna think I suck and I'm never gonna get a gig, and that's like, I mean, trust me, I have thought all of those thoughts many, many times over many years,
Yeah.
And the more you do something, the more times you do it over and over and over again over many years. I mean, I've been playing the banjo. I started playing the banjo 20 years ago. This year, it's almost 21 years, and I had already been playing the guitar for seriously, my whole life was focused around the guitar until the first time I did a forward roll on that banjo, and then my life became focused around the banjo. But I mean, my whole life has been focused around music since I was 5 years old, since as long as I can remember, and I was still, a 25-year-old person going, oh God, what if I do a bad job? What if this isn't good? So I mean, I spent, it's not what you think of every time, but those thoughts are in there, And so what I'm saying is now I've been playing music literally my whole freaking life.
Yeah.
And it's the mechanics of it, the mechanics of the banjo are so ingrained in me. And I mean, I still have to think about what I'm going to do and choose what I'm going to do, but in a big way, the mechanics of it are just in there,
Yeah.
And I can, and that allows me to focus on other things that are happening. I can play a solo and also pay attention to the way that the mandolin player is listening to me and playing behind me and what I'm doing, but it's not going to get in the way of me. It's not going to throw me off the rails or something like that, and I think the only thing that makes that happen is time. Just doing. I've just done it so much, and I'm not saying I don't ever get nervous. I mean, I got to sit in with Del McCurry Band last weekend, and I was nervous as it could be, and that doesn't happen. I don't get nervous like that very often, but I knew I was going to go up and play a twin banjo tune. Rob and I did Shucking the Corn together,
cool.
Twin banjos, and I was backstage just like sweating and freaking out, because it's Del McCurry, and me and Rob didn't get to practice the tune before they went on stage.
No.
We talked about it. We knew we were going to go up there, but we didn't. We talked about it real quick, and we didn't have time to run the tune. So then they call me up there, and then they're introducing me, and I'm getting up to the mic and stuff, and we're like about to kick it off, and then Del turns right in the microphone. Del goes, "Hey, did y'all ever actually practice this?" And Rob goes, "No, we didn't." And I was just like, oh my God, like. Why did you have to just call me out as that we didn't practice this? But again, it's like, man, I know the twin part to Shucking the Corn.
Yep.
I think it went fine. I never saw a recording of it. It probably was fine. There was no train wrecks. I know that.
Yeah.
And so, and I had a damn good time. And I was up there laughing. And Del was, I was able to get him smiling and I mean, not I didn't do it, but it was he was up there just smiling and loving life, and I was able to enjoy that moment and perform in that moment,
Right.
Even through the nerves. But I don't know if, I mean, telling yourself, just telling yourself over and over again, it's not the end of the world. It's just music. No one's gonna die. Nothing bad's gonna happen. And one piece of advice I got from Bela Fleck one time, and I truly believe this is true. Bela told me, when you're on stage and you play a solo and you just think it was the best, you're just like, oh man, that was it. I really did it. That was the one. I just got it. If you go back and listen, it's probably not as good as you thought it was. That's your brain. It's probably good, but it may not be it's not going to be probably as good as you thought. And the flip side is true. If you're up there and you're like, oh God, I just really messed that up and I'm so embarrassed, go back and listen to the recording. It's probably not as bad as you thought it was. You're all of what we do. I mean, you're still you. How bad can your mistake be? I mean, it can't be that bad. And all of us, not just me, any person who does a task and a performance thing like this over and over and over and over again, you're down the line, middle of the road performance. You're not going to vary that much off of that performance on any given day. We all have good days. We all have bad days.
Yeah.
But a lot of that's in your head, and I just remember Bela telling me that, and in my experience, he's right. I mean, there's definitely been times when I walked off stage and I was like, damn, I can't believe, or even in the studio, where you finish a solo and you're like, you walk into the booth and they're like, that was great. And I'm like, you're going to have to take that ending off. We're going to have to redo that ending. That didn't work. And then I listen back to the tape and I'm like, oh, the ending's fine. It's great.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not, Yeah, so like I said, you can tell yourself these things over and over and over again, and have advice like that from someone like Bela, but and that goes a long way. But at the
Sure.
end of the day, I think just having done it, the more times you do it, the more experiences you have, just getting out there and doing it over and over and over again, and eventually it's old hat
Yeah.
stuff.
And I like how you said if you do think you played a great solo, like it keeps your ego in check because it's like you've done it enough times that like, oh, that was pretty good, but like, it wasn't end all be all of solos, like you're going to have to do it again. You're going to have to do it again and and
I'm gonna have to do it again tomorrow. I'm gonna have to do it again the day after that. I'm
Yeah,
gonna have to do it
yeah.
again the day after that.
So it's
I'm
like-
probably gonna be playing that solo again in 30 years from now. I'm still gonna be playing a solo on that song.
Yeah.
So and there's a lot of and sure, hopefully one night there's gonna be a really really great one, and hopefully the video that gets all the YouTube views is the one where I played really great, and not the one where I played just mediocre.
I know,
But
right?
that's another thing that's so beyond our control, and it's tough too, because like especially today with social media and with social media and even with YouTube,
Yeah.
there used to be if you're in a jam session, with your friends at a party or after a concert out the back door, picking in the parking lot or something like that. I mean, that's just sort of it's an innocent one time only. We're just friends having fun. But now,
Yeah.
someone's gonna throw that sucker pull out their phone, and that innocent we're just having a good time video is gonna be on the internet for the rest of your natural born life. And that's like, or until the internet dies, hopefully.
Yeah.
So, there's that feeling that you're talking about, that sort of
Yeah.
nerves, and how do you get past it? It is definitely made worse
Yeah.
by the technological world that we're living in. And like Earl Scruggs didn't have that happening to him.
No.
Sonny Osborne, J.D. Crowe, when those guys were out back picking after the gig, no one heard that. They
Yeah.
didn't have to worry about if anyone was ever going to see a video of that and if it was going to last forever.
I know, right?
So we have we're living in a different world now than
Yeah.
our heroes were living in. And that's for sure. And that's noteworthy too, I think. I know like Jack White, you can't take a phone. They take your phone away
Yeah.
when you go see Jack White. When you
I've
walk
heard
in the
of this.
building, they seal it up in this little bag and
Yeah.
you can't open it,
It's a good idea.
And Bob Dylan tour just did the same thing. I only know because a buddy of mine went and saw it, and he came back from it. And a buddy of mine saw him in Nashville here, at the Brooklyn Bowl in Nashville. It's a pretty small room, especially for Bob Dylan. It's a very small room.
Yeah.
And the tickets were hard to get, and so everybody there. I wasn't there, but I heard firsthand from my buddy who was there that everyone in there was the friend group of people that we've all had for a really long time. Everybody in there was buddies. It was all Nashville locals, all these people who all play
Cool.
music together. They've all been playing Dylan songs together their whole lives, and none of them had a phone to take a damn video. So they all really had a really good time at a concert, which you don't hardly get to do anymore.
Yeah.
And so when I hear that, I'm like, oh man, that's so cool, but I'm obviously not in a place where I would be able to command people to not have their phone. And the flip side of it is like, I'm still in a place where I need people to have their phone so they can make a video of me,
Same here.
so that I can get to that spot.
Yeah.
So I try not to think too much about, like you said, hopefully something's gonna change, and maybe there'll be some sort of, who knows what, some sort of paradigm shift in the way
Yeah.
it's all used. And I agree with you that I think that would be great. But I also try not to think too much about what it would be or what it would be like, because that's beyond our control, really.
Yeah.
And it's easy to get dark on that stuff too,
Yeah, and I think maybe just keep in mind, everybody, just think twice maybe before you pull out the phone. Do you really need to pull out the phone? Is this a moment that you can just have in your memory? Will it be
Right.
better in your memory?
Exactly. Instead of looking at it through a phone, watching a screen that's watching real life.
Yeah, then
it's
we got to
weird.
buy more data or
know.
storage. What's the point? So I don't know.
Yeah, and all the story. I mean, that's another one that wigs me out a little bit. It's like the data. Stuff doesn't go away. It's like we're using so much power. I mean, the world is
Yeah.
using so much electricity to store pictures of pancakes and cats and stuff like that. And don't get
well,
me wrong,
those
I
are
like
two
pancakes and
that
cats.
I could look at. Yeah.
Yeah, see what I'm saying? It's hard to know. It's hard to know what to get rid of.
Yeah, I know it is hard. Yeah. Oh man. Well, anyway, I mean, it's been great talking to you. This has been so fun, and thanks for coming on the chat. I have your website as www.kyletuttle.com. Is there anything else that people should know to find you?
Yeah, there's one other thing. I have some for the aspiring banjo player out there on YouTube. I have some videos, some lesson videos.
Perfect.
It's just a bunch. There's like 4 or 5 things up there. They're all free. There's little diagrams in there that sort of show fingerboards and patterns and stuff like that. It's mostly, I made them all when I was at Berkeley. They're like, excuse the recording quality because they're just old. I look like I'm in like it's one of these like videos from the Middle East of a prisoner,
Yeah.
I got like a curtain like a bed sheet curtain hanging behind me, and it's like all wrinkly and shit like that. But the content is good though.
That's great. That's
and
awesome.
and so that's and I do teach lessons from time to time, but my schedule is pretty difficult to make any of that happen. So typically, if anyone's asking about lessons, I usually say, hey, go check out these handful of videos on YouTube and wrap your head around that. And if you still, if that stuff makes sense to you and you still want to hear me talk about banjos more, then, hit me up and we'll try and make a lesson happen.
That's awesome. And then, of course, everyone should find you with Molly Tuttle and Golden Highway out on tour. I know you guys are going out Thursday or something. I'm not sure what day it was.
Yeah, we start tour for 2024 starts on Thursday in Atlanta. That's maybe that's going to already be happened by the time this comes out, but
it will.
But yeah, Thursday, April 18th, and from then on, we've had a slow. They fortunately gave us a pretty slow start to this year because we've had 2 really really big years. But now, starting on April 18th and pretty much for the rest of the year, we're coming to your town, America.
Yes, awesome. So everybody go check out Kyle Tuttle because you're awesome. And
shucks.
and thanks for listening, everybody. Thanks for being on the chat, Kyle. And if you have any questions or comments, you can write to banjochatpodcast@gmail.com, and you can follow us on Instagram at banjochat. Thanks for listening. Bye. If you'd like to support the Banjo Chat podcast, check out our new Patreon page at patreon.com/banjochat. Also, give us a like, a review, and subscribe, and that'll help boost it along so we can keep making these for you. Thanks.